move on to our next presentation. Our next presentation is given by Ms. Yating Tiffany from the English department of this university. Her presentation title is Media Representations of Leftover Women in China, a corpus-assisted medical study. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tiffany. So I'm a student here at Hong Kong Poly U. And if by any chances you are working on the same topic, perhaps you can leave me your contact and we can talk more later. And I'm so lucky to have so many experts here to give me comment later. So this is the outline for my talk. So what is leftover women? Leftover women is a term coined by the All China Women's Federation in 2007. And it is listed as one of the neologism by the Ministry of Education. The definition is unmarried female who is older than 27. Why 27? I don't know, but I guess most of us have passed this age. But interestingly, after a decade, the same NGO tried to ban the same term. So this justified the period of my data is between 2007 and 2017. So what is metaphor? Metaphor is to use something to talk about something else. For example here, if we use food, if we compare women to food, then it might imply a negative connotation. So my research aim and niche is to explore one of the latest gender issues in China. And I want to see the ideology hidden. And as we know, metaphor shape and reflect ways of thinking. However, few studies have investigated the media representation of leftover women in terms of metaphor use. As Gibbs pointed out, how metaphor shaped reflected culture were not topics that have attracted much attention. So I have two research questions. Number one, how are metaphors employed to discuss topics related to leftover women? And number two, what ideologies are hidden? So for my data, I collected from two sources. And very importantly, these news are written in English by Chinese people. And this is the detail of my corpus. There are more than 200,000 words. For methodology, I take the discourse dynamic approach. And for them, the relationship between language and thoughts are two-way interactional rather than unidirectional. And I have taken an emergentist perspective within the Sinclairian tradition. So it just simply means like I have taken a bottom-up approach. So just let the categories emerge from the data. And so there are four steps. The first, get the concordance. So these terms are synonym, hypernym, hypernyms of women. So I get the concordance. In total, there are nearly 4,000 concordance. And I put them in an Excel spreadsheet. And to identify the linguistic metaphors, because this is a pilot study, so I try to be more open-minded to possibilities. So I try to identify every single metaphor. And so, as Cameron pointed out, explicitness of decision is more important than the so-called truth. And so, I try to identify every kind of metaphors, even preposition. They could also carry ideology. So in total, I have identified 1,000 linguistic metaphors within 800 concordance. So this is a pilot study. And the next step is to I multiply code the metaphor into different categories. So there are 3. So we call grouping, it's just source domain. And I group them according to the semantic field. And for the topics, that just means the content of the ongoing discourse. But it is impossible to infer every single topic for more than 1,000 metaphors. So in this case, I try to categorize them into the key discourse topics, which mean there are a few topics related to my question. And for evaluation, I put them into positive, negative, and neutral. And it's important to notice that the evaluation is specific to every single metaphor. So the whole coding procedure is non-sequential, non-linear. And the categories are tentative, loose, and they are temporary at the beginning, and they are only firm up at the last moment. So as Cameron said, there is no right answer how to assign the category. It is based on informed intuition and supported by the discourse context, supported by some references. So in order to enhance my trustworthiness, I use 2 references. One is METALUDE, which is built by Professor Andrew Goldley and his team. And so if I type in a single metaphor, it will show me what is the target domain and what is the source domain, and also all the meaning. So as a secondary reference, I use WordNet. It will give me all the senses of a word. So this is a very comprehensive result. And for the key discourse domains, the key discourse topics, I have 11. And for the source domain, I have 21. So this crosstabulation sums up all the frequencies of different kinds of metaphors, and it has confirmed the emergentist perspective. Metaphors are unevenly and inconsistently distributed. And in my case, it is not feasible to run any statistical test. So I try to group them according to the top 8 RaAM groupings, which has occupied 77% of all the metaphors. The next step is to explain the metaphor patterns and ideologies. So I borrowed the notion from Charter is Black. So ideological metaphors are metaphors that convey a set of values and beliefs, and they are used to define and to unite a group. And next, I propose sets of systematic metaphors, which just means like conceptual metaphors. They summarize all the ideological themes about level of women. And last, I try to explain the possible ideological motivation. So these are the systematic metaphors that I have summed up, and I will try to, because time is limited, so I will try to just show a few examples. So for a food metaphor, women are food. If women they don't get married, they are left over. And they are telling educated women not to study so hard, not to excel. Otherwise, they are like leftover food, must be discarded. So as you can see, these are quite negative metaphors. And so I try to sum up the frequencies of all the food metaphors. And as you can see, the majority are negative. And for trading metaphor, women are commodities. Let's see some examples. Women are commercial product with a limited shelf life if she has failed to sell herself to her husband in a timely fashion. And women are commodities, and they are constantly tallied. And their value in the marriage market depends on their age, depends on the look, the color of the skin, and the size of your eyes. So for vertical orientation metaphors, this is what Lakoff and Johnson will call more is up, less is down. So age is vertical orientation, and the data shows that these women tend to be over age. They are over the age of 35, they are above the age of 27. And second, social economic status is vertical orientation. Their education level and career potential is high. They are high-earning career women. So because of these two reasons, they are over age, and also their status is high, so it's very difficult for them to find a husband. Because women tend to marry up, they tend to date up, so the more they climb the social ladder, the upper they are, the more difficult they find someone higher than them. So for vertical orientation, the majority are also 56% are negative. So I try to propose 3 possible ideological motivation behind. So there are 3. One is culture. So for Chinese culture, we live in the Confucius culture, which harmonious families and also traditional heterosexual marriage prevails in our society. And second, politics. As you know, in China, nowadays we are facing a demographic crisis of aging population and also gender imbalance. So we have way more men than women. So in order to encourage these women to get married early, so we label them leftover. And economic. The phenomenon of leftover women has triggered lots of opportunities. For example, like marriage, for example, like TV shows, and also some matchmakers. As we all know, the most popular TV show nowadays is 非诚勿扰. You know, it's a dating show. So the implication to is my study is to contribute to the field of CADS, corpus-assisted discourse study, on Chinese gender and also metaphor. And I hope to raise the awareness of this social group. And here are the references. And your critical comment will be highly appreciated.
Thank you. Questions?
Sure.
Thanks. I mean, good efforts, right? Very interesting. Just a theoretical point. Systematic metaphors are not the same as conceptual metaphors.
Yeah, I know.
Because you said they are the same.
No, it's not the same because I'm just afraid some of the audience might not know what a systematic metaphor. Systematic metaphor is very different from conceptual metaphor, because systematic metaphor, they believe language and thought are interactional rather than unidirectional. So for conceptual metaphor, they think thought will influence language, so it's rather unidirectional. So I know the difference, but I just, in case they don't know what systematic metaphor is, so yeah. But in terms of the methodology, the design, what do you think of it? Because I haven't taken the charter with blacks approach, and most people for this kind of research will take charter with black. So yeah.
I will answer that your approach is basically it's the better for me. It's the better approach to choose Cameron's dynamic system
really?
approach, because I have the impression that, as you pointed out, it's rather interactional with regard to thought and language, so to say, and she is rather kind of bottom-up approach, so to say.
Yeah.
She starts from language use and rather finds systematic metaphors on the level, on the discourse level, and not
Yeah.
on the conceptual level.
No,
Charteris
totally.
Black more argues from a kind of conceptual perspective, from a top-down perspective. So basically, I would, my suggestion would be to
This approach,
stay with
stick to
Cameron.
it.
Yes.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
Other comments?
Okay.
Maybe ideology.
Yeah.
You and Dice has done some very good research.
Uh-huh.
If you wanted to expand the ideology related to metaphor, it might be.
Yes, that's a good suggestion. Because this is a chapter of my thesis, so I actually have a model. Hello, sorry. So this is a chapter of my thesis, so I have a model combining CDS and metaphor and also corpus linguistics. So the Van Dyke will be the CDS part. So that's a good suggestion.
What you also could do is kind of reconstruct the development of metaphors that are related to leftover women over the time, because I think it was from 2007 to 2017. You could basically also look for changes in the vehicle. Because Cameron talks of vehicle development, she talks of vehicle shifting. Maybe so to say the source domain may change, or there might other semantic fields come into the vehicle for leftover women. So maybe that changes over time, or maybe one of the two I think it was newspapers, wasn't it? Maybe some newspaper uses especially one or two particular vehicles, whereas the other uses different ones or something like that. So you could do a kind of diachronic analysis, so to say.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and I also have thought about that because the corpus is only 200,000 words, so it's rather relatively small. And maybe I will look into that in the future research, to compare this and the future one, because 2017 is the year that they stop using this term, so I can see the difference between this year and in the future. Then that will be a good suggestion. Thank you.
Any comments? Questions? Would you prefer to continue the discussion after the presentation?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. 掉吧，他们不用。
就是我那个就是那个太多了，你们就是一个 paper focus on one metaphor，然后看它的不同 frame 嘛。我这个是有好多 metaphor 在，可能就5、6、7、8个 metaphor，我觉得有点控制不了。如果写一个 paper 的话，
你这个应该是整个 thesis 有这么多 metaphor 可以，但是如果是你要发一个 paper 的话，你写放这么多其实放不进去。
对啊，所以我这个 poetry 是比较dynamic。
但是你这个要干嘛？不是你 thesis 吗？
对，但我也要 publish， 我想 publish 嘛。
那你就先挑1、2个 metaphor 出来，而不是就好了。
我想那个 chapter is black cover， 就是他们那边 focus on proposition 是吧？大部分不太
这样。
对。
你做 preposition 要干嘛？
因为他刚刚那个就是我们在我们less is and 那个就是 position 嘛，然后他们讲就是女人她的 economic position 很差，所以 high over age 35，那只是 proposition。
魏老师，魏老师，跟我一起的那个魏老师，魏，
去 define their identity。
是的，哦不是，我们他是上海人，我们是一个。
对这个理论我们很兴趣，国内他们
什么东西啊？
这个缺口就是3个5年。
山东大学
上大。
山东大学。福州大学。
我的整个 thesis 会有另外一个 contribution， 我这个只是用那个看起来然后我就是上下会有多一点 contribution。
对呀。
只看 preposition。
我更不懂了。
不是只看，就是它包括。那假如说我如果用 charter black 的那个，就是我就是看比如说 10% of the data， 然后我就写那个 keywords 吧，然后再把那 keywords 放在第三整个 corpus 上，去看它有数量什么。
我记错了，我刚才有一个
不用太多。
就是海报的，有一个。
那假如说，其实我这个还可以改成 charter black， 我就是说，就是说，那假如我用 charter black approach， 但是我上了它的方法。我就说我直接用这个我直接
讲那个
放到不按照完全一样。如果说我用 charter black， 但是我只是看 concordance， 那这样可以吗？
我是不打算听的。下午
就是说
1点到2点半。
如果你要发在corpus-linguistic 期刊的话，的 methodology 要很讲究。但是如果你要发怎么说 watching linguistics 或者是 gender studies 期刊的话，不需要这么讲究，或者说哪一种 approach 都可以。因为他们不懂，因为那些人不太懂。你就选一个，就是你的 supervisor 是谁？
你要干嘛？我没有关系，我有时间到面试，后来提议到了没好呀？人家又不认识我们，人家又是认识跟你到，要这么不明显。认识的，我浏览去还可以，没有聊过这样去找人家，真是吓死人。我说敢，我也敢，不敢上说我，有道理，有道理。在做领域做了多久？
我觉得是 outside external。
我也只是研究生。
很难。
2年上院为止没有，不要那个3年。对啊，我基本上我们是就是
已经很深了，水很深了。
supervisor 大学上以后，然后请不知道的，不知道是就是看了，然后他们负责去外面找一个人。
哦 ，Grant
外面那个人是学
你是他们的学生，
觉得
你是在海外读的，
在英国读的3年。
那没问题。那你现在在
那我那个其实也是熟练，
他这个 H 不发音吗？有啊，那个什么？
看完全都没有说是在那里。
那可以啦，有基础在里面。
方法跟他差不多。可以吧？我觉得没什么不可以的。
对呀。应该很小吧？这是真的小。
是这样，只要supervisor、co-supervisor
我感觉能腔调一下。
那他们
普通话的那个样子有点啊，江西也有说客家话的吗？
哦，他不是你的。
所以分不清。哦，加了微信，加了微信。对。真是觉得好难。他就没有加，他太厉害了。
每2年会开一次会，要不像是那个。
什么叫做每2年开一次会？
当然会有开会。
我们现在连一个都连不清楚。
所以我也没办法给你很具体的意见。
肯定是啦。
他是对象。
就找对的期刊发就好了。对，因为你这个考绩较没得到，
才31岁，
你这个东西
小
要是
溜溜，
社会现象
你是不是24岁就去读了？
没有，我23岁就去。
啊，那你入行很深啊，你也将近10年了。
也没怎么研究，其实我都没看。
一个chapter。
我没看收到。我要先。
那你为什么这么早就能上到这么大的？
啊，我还做有他的网站丢回去，然后我还用其他的，比如说 corpus 的一些方法，就是
因为他已经毕业，他退休了。
还有那个什么，
看来毕业的情节很难过。毕业了
CDS 我会用 social semantic 的，比如说就是social semantic 就是你要对，就是。
那你现在还是要想做移民教学吗？
我会用它的 framework，所以我整个有个 model，就是说我说这3个部分把 ideology 对了。
这个比较好，跟自己好像对这些也有这方面的研究，对。然后对，主要是这些看看吧。对啊，有那种情况的这个研究方面好，我好像说真的好难。而且我之前在
这个考虑过，我老师分析的讲，只是我现在这个 corpus 太小了。
不会，你高度很高。
然后有没有高度？
我已经全部知道了。你知道英文的那个英文的新闻，我阅读过全部可以朗诵了。
哦，3年有点小。
对，已经是
400篇少，
300篇。对，20万、20多万、24万字。
啊，做完了。为什么会放在后面？是不是领域又是不一样的？
那个我全教过，就是那个叫什么
都搞完了。
所以我成绩他那个是比较 semantic，就是他不是泛泛的说嘛，他就是semantic，就是我们会是它是这样的，就是比如说整个 corpus 放进去，然后他就会对，就是放这个是最 key 的，比如说 key 是最 key 的，没有了，他们会来说，对，所以可以，比如说那个 kinship，然后是第一个是加的。
有的真的是觉得挺难的，因为我觉得这个太远了。
这个不是的，对，这个太远了，对。谢谢。
另外你可以细致一点说，刚才这个老师说的台湾。
Are you also working on corpus?
I'm a film studies guy, but we work together with Lenny Cameron on audiovisual metaphors, and my colleague who asked you some questions, she's from the linguist side, and we work together on a project on visual metaphors and gestures and metaphors.
I see. Lenny Cameron, so you're from which university? Sorry.
I'm from Berlin, but we just had a project where we
Collaboration
worked
together. Oh, that's interesting.
And because you wrote down that, or you said at the beginning that
对啊，我就觉得露水进去以后弄错了。不会。
No, not yet.
Wait.
I think she's very feminist thinking and she's very nice personally, and I think she could be very interested in your project, and just would write an email.
Yeah, sure. Then I will just contact her.